Hello and welcome to another thrilling episode of Back to the Podcast. We are your hosts, Justin Neal, and I am Chris Lawler, and our mission is to create an entertaining, cinema-centric discussion about the past, present, and future of all things revolving around entertainment. Please don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe on whatever platform you consume your content. On today's show, we're going to discuss current movie news and our top picks for movies we highly recommend that you watch. Justin, welcome back to the show. How are we feeling today? What have you been watching this week?
I'm feeling great. I've actually watched a few things. I saw Beau is Afraid last weekend with Joaquin Phoenix.
Right,
and
you were
then,
talking that one up, yeah.
Yeah. And then recently, my wife and I watched The King with Timothy Chalamet, which is really good. It's on Netflix. It's basically an adaptation of Shakespeare's Henry V, or really just kind of the story of Henry V and the Battle of Agincourt against France and all that stuff. But Timothy Chalamet, it's basically a play. It's like a cinema version of a play. It's very, stage-y, that sort of thing. But script is super good. Fantastic performances all around. Joel Edgerton is fantastic. Let's see what else. In the Menu with Ralph Fiennes and Anna Taylor-Joy. We recently watched that.
Okay,
yes,
good.
Super dark comedy. I'm a big fan of dark comedy, so I giggled a lot at the dark comedy stuff. I like seeing Ralph Fiennes in that sort of role. He really he knows how to carry the screen really well. I wasn't completely blown away, but it was a lot of fun for me. I giggled a lot, so dark comedy.
I mean, isn't that fun to just sometimes not throw on the most profound film, but to just have some fun? I got the opportunity to watch something like that, Bullet Train with Brad Pitt. I was on a flight recently and it was on there, and not necessarily something I would pay to go and see at the theater, but damn, if it wasn't just fun, a little long in some parts and stuff, but it paid off. The action sequences were fun. It's a good popcorn flick, and who doesn't love just something like that every now and then? Shut your brain up and just go on a ride.
Yeah, I saw that one too. Brad Pitt with a lollipop through most of the movie. But who I thought was really interesting and whose career has been interesting is Aaron Johnson, who was in that.
Yeah. Quick.
And he flipped the script in his real life. He married an older woman, which is interesting, just unusual in. Honestly, the industry in showbiz, it's usually an older man with a younger woman. Mm-hmm. But he married an older woman, and she's an established director and producer, and I always thought that was really interesting. But she's like 10 years older than he is. That's crazy. And they've been married for a long time and have multiple kids and stuff. But he was in Kick-Ass. But then he also did Anna Karenina with Joe Wright. Joe Wright's movie, Anna Karenina. Let's see, which was a big one. Well, for me anyway, I like that movie.
But now he's going to be playing another Marvel.
He's in all kinds of stuff. He's in all kinds of stuff.
He's going to be Kraven the Hunter soon as well.
There you go. So he's had an interesting career.
But I'm with you. His performance in that movie really stuck out. I was like, wow, I'm really believing that he's British. And that he is.
Well, he is British.
Oh, isn't Jesus. He? I don't know. I thought he was an American. So
no, he's British.
So how much I know. So, but that's pretty much what I got into. Did see Tetris this week on Apple.
Yeah, I do want to see that.
I thought that was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. Didn't necessarily know much about the story. So I was definitely intrigued with the ride, especially as a gamer, watching this history and unfold and stuff, and how bizarre the story was of Tetris. I did really enjoy that. Once again, hesitant with streaming movies, but I think they're starting to hit their stride. Now, this is like the second straight to streaming film that I've seen that I'm like, why wasn't that released in theaters? That was actually a really quality movie. So, that's what I've been watching. So, but another stuff that's been going on this week, man, have you been paying attention to the news? The writer's strike that hit this past week. And not that we haven't seen one of these before, but this one has just halted all content. It seems like there's nothing to watch out there right now. A lot of things have just come to a stop. Have you seen the articles about that this past week?
I have, definitely. And one of the things too is that it affects not just directly what you would think of like the actual shows themselves, but even I heard that Drew Barrymore pulled out of hosting an award show 3 days before it was supposed to happen, in solidarity with the writer's strike and whatever her capacity is. I know she's she owns her own production company, stuff like that.
Right,
so anyway, she pulled out of it. So it has far reaching consequences that, it really affects the industry, a lot of jobs, a lot of stuff like that. People you don't really realize who are trying to work and make a living. It really affects the entire, Los Angeles is probably a mess right now.
Yeah. So this is the small excerpt we've got for today. Members of the Writers Guild of America went on strike after negotiations with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers faltered. The WGA is calling for higher minimum pay, more writers per show, shorter exclusive contracts, and viewer transparency from streamers. Picketing members in Los Angeles and New York City have disrupted productions of shows like Stranger Things, Loot, and Blade. Late night talk shows have gone dark and reruns are airing. This is the first strike in 15 years. And if it persists through the summer, fall TV schedules could be upended. The writers say their pay isn't keeping pace with inflation, and they are making less than they used to while working under more strained conditions. The WGA voted overwhelmingly to authorize a strike, and negotiations are ongoing. So, do you remember the last one? I think it was 2006.
Yeah.
That just
mid 2000s. Everything stopped.
Just
how did it affect
late
you?
Night? For me, it just killed a lot of shows that I was thoroughly enjoying, man. Like I always remember back to Rescue Me with Dennis Leary. Did you ever see that one about the firefighters on FX?
I remember it, but I'd never watched it.
Oh man, I thought it was a solid show. And then right around season 3, I think is when the writer's strike happened, and it just like killed the momentum. And then I don't think all the writers came back to the show. Scrubs got hit by that one. There were so many shows that were like, I thought, at their peak. And I mean, dude, everybody should be getting their equal rights and equal pay. The big thing I remember back in 06 was the fact that they were trying to get more writers like creative control over their properties and stuff like that. And I think that's why we've had a golden age of television since then. I think it was a positive, but it did suck when it happened.
Yeah, it really disrupted Lost too. I know that was a big one. That show was super popular and it went really off the rails after the writer's strike and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm all for equal pay, but I miss my shows, man. And I hope that they get this resolved sooner rather than later and everyone gets what they need, because I definitely am going to miss late night talk shows. I really want to see the new Blade. I know there's a lot more stuff that's being handled, but for me, when I heard Blade was being altered or halted, I was like, oh no. That's the one Marvel movie that I'm excited to see rebooted. As much as I love the 90s Wesley Snipes ones, it's definitely time for a little reboot on some Blade action.
Didn't Guillermo del Toro do Blade 2? Didn't he do one of those Blades?
That's why Ron Perlman's in it. Yeah.
No, okay.
Ron Perlman's in every one of his movies.
Was he in Devil's Backbone? I don't remember him in Devil's Backbone. That was the first one I saw.
He was in all the Spanish ones as well, too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Ron Perlman and him have been doing stuff since the get-go. Yeah, so he did the second one, which I've rewatched a couple times recently, and it's fine. It's Guillermo del Toro taking on a comic book movie, and it's exactly that. You know?
Yeah, it's not really my style, so I never saw. I don't think I might have seen bits of the first one, but it's not really. I'm not the audience.
Oh no, yeah, it was fun to go see something. It was all techno and blood and guts and action. The first one still kind of was like
Snipes.
Snipes though, man. I mean, the stories about the third movie and how hard he was to work with are just legendary, man. I mean,
really?
The last scene of the movie, he's supposed to open his eyes and he refused to do it, so they had to computer animate eyelids opening over an actor who refused to do it. And he was an executive producer on all 3 of those movies. Without him, we wouldn't even have had those movies. That's the way that he treated it. It's ridiculous. The stories behind the scenes are legendary. Patton Oswalt has told so many great stories.
I need to look that up. Yeah, I love lore.
He was in the third movie.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's his connection. Patton Oswalt was in the third movie. And of course, he's a huge Marvel comic book nerd. But the fact that he was there, Ryan Reynolds was there. Ryan Reynolds has been very candid about how uncomfortable that was. But that's without that third movie, we wouldn't have Deadpool. That was literally the first iteration of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool was in Blade Trinity. Anyway, totally sidetracked. But that's what's going on with the writer's strike right now. So hopefully things will get back to work soon and stuff. But I mean, you're a writer. How do you feel about getting paid your due?
Oh my God, that's a very complicated thing. I am not a part of the Writers Guild. That's a whole other thing. I'm not even gonna. I have no opinion. You know what I mean? I really don't. It's like I don't know enough of the ins and outs that. Yeah, I'm not even in an armchair. Like, I have no opinion at this point. So yeah, like you, I just hope it gets resolved. I hope everyone gets theirs. Whatever, that sort of thing. Like, it's really complicated how all of it works.
Yeah. But I do want to see. I love cinema. I love the shows and stuff. I want to see people getting back to work, and I want I want to be enjoying that time, right now.
I want to see writers get paid.
I want to see writers get paid, but I also want to see some entertaining stuff. Well, right on. Well, that's the news, so we don't want to have to worry with that. So let's talk about our subject for today. Something I know that you and I are very excited about. As movie nerds, we love sharing our favorites with people, right? Do you ever just meet a stranger and for some reason you just start gushing about a film to them? You don't even know why, and you're just going down a rabbit hole and
I talk to everyone about movies.
About movies, right? Yeah, exactly.
So,
me too.
yeah.
So now is our chance to finally spread our wings and let people know movies that we really recommend that people should be watching. And the thing I love it is that we've got a great eclectic background of things that we like to watch. So I think
I like all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of good movies from different time periods. Now mine actually I didn't spread too far in genre. It was like I'm going to pick something from the 40s or 50s and 60s. No, I didn't do that. Mine are kind of in a certain time frame, but I think I got some gems in here to recommend to people.
I almost can't remember every year the movies that I'm going to recommend came out, but with that being said, let's dive in and let's see if we can get through all 10 of the recommendations that we've got today, because I know we're going to gush on a couple of them. You're up first, man. We've got this great movie right here. Boom.
13th Warrior. All right, so I highly recommend The 13th Warrior. I think it is incredibly underrated. When it came out, it just didn't get a lot of buzz. But it's directed by John McTiernan, who did Die Hard and Predator, a very well-known 90s action director. He got into some legal problems, I believe, and then stopped making movies for a long time. But I think he's trying to make making a comeback soon. Anyway, 13th Warrior. So it is set in 10th century. In the 10th century, Antonio Banderas is a Muslim who gets sent from Baghdad to basically up north, northern Europe, to help with the situation up there. So it's a travel.
Cannibals? Isn't that what they were?
Well, they didn't know. Yeah,
they didn't know, right?
They didn't know what it was, but yeah. So thanks. But anyway, I think it is incredibly well done. It's an action movie. I would say it falls into an action movie, but it's more of a historian's action movie sort of thing. But it's done in a very gritty, real sort of way. I don't know. I think it is terribly underrated. Whenever I go over to someone's house, and I remember a couple of times I've seen, 13th Warrior on their shelf, and I'll always point and be like, that movie is so good. I don't know anyone else who has, who has the appreciation for that movie as I do. What about you? Have you seen 13th Warrior?
Yes, this is one of those few movies that you and I have actually both seen, and I can highly recommend as well. This one was not my favorite the first time I saw it, actually. It grew on me. I had to watch it 2 more times, but I definitely have a deep appreciation for this one. Once again, it's a movie that I can highly recommend, just like you, because it feels underrated.
I think it's untraditional. I think it's not a traditional sort of Western Hollywood storytelling. So it was hard for people to really sink their hooks into it, because it doesn't follow what we would think of in Western storytelling as traditional story beats. Like Star Wars does, sort of thing, which is really good at. That's what Lucas was good at. Was hitting those beats.
And I think this was still a little early in Antonio Banderas' career for him.
And he wasn't big enough and everything to necessarily just carry it. Yeah. But anyway, it was one of those it's not a traditional. It's more of an it's more of a European sort of movie. It's got a little more. It's a little more art. It's a little more art house than you would expect. It's kind of an art house action history movie. But when the action kicks in, it's pretty badass.
It's pretty badass, yeah.
Pretty gritty and real swords and stuff. So anyway, 13th Warrior.
Right on. I got to go back and rewatch this. I think I saw that this one might be on Disney Plus now when we were doing our research. So that might be one of the places you can check it out if you have not seen that one. So coming up next, this one is one that I highly recommend to everyone. It is Serenity.
Yes.
I love this movie. So
I love this movie.
I was working at Blockbuster when this film came out, and I just kept walking by this DVD cover, and I was just like, what am I seeing here? And I mentioned it to somebody, and they were like, oh yeah, man, I would really watch that. It's a great movie. So just based on a simple one-off conversation, I grabbed this, and within the first few seconds, right, we were talking about the intro, the credits and stuff.
Yeah,
introduced the entire world, the cast, who they are, what they're about, and it's not even 3 minutes into the film, and it's that was solid storytelling.
Then
you're just taken on a ride. and the ride is exhilarating. Then I found out that this was based on a TV show, which I'm sure a lot more people know about that now, but at the time I didn't know.
I didn't either. I didn't know Firefly.
I had no idea it was based off of Firefly. And then I went back in and rented the show. The show is stellar as well.
No. Well, I mean, it shows promise, but the movie after starting with the movie and then going back to Firefly, I can take it or leave it, but the movie is so good.
Is that even though there is a lot of backstory to these characters nestled into that movie, you don't need to watch one episode.
You don't. It's really good. At Studying the World. Like you, I had no previous knowledge, and I remember I had the day off. It was in the theater that summer of 2006, I think it was.
You saw it in the theater.
I saw it in the theater, and so it was just this kind of sci-fi adventure, and I was kind of bored, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to my temple and catch a flick, and I'm going to feel better about life, because that's what I love to do. So I go to the theater, and like you said, within that first opening credit sequence where it's one shot and it follows him out through the whole ship, and it introduces all the side characters, it introduces everyone's personality, it introduces kind of the setting, everything, and then at the end of the sequence says, directed by Joss Whedon, and in that moment, like, I didn't know his television worked. It was like, this guy knows what he's doing, because this is a solid opening, and the rest of the movie was fantastic.
Sarah Paulson. This is where I fell in love with Sarah Paulson. She has the
that's
smallest
right at the end.
Yeah. At the very end, where she's just on a hologram leaving a message.
That's right.
The performance, like, oh my God, I get goosebumps just thinking about the end of the movie there.
Chiwetel is so good as the antagonist.
Oh, dude,
he's got that. Yeah. And that came out around the same time as Children of Men, which we've talked about. I'm a big fan of that. So Chiwetel was definitely kind of showing up on the radar around that time.
I love this movie, if you guys can't tell. So I highly recommend
That's a fun movie. It's got action, it's got humor, it's got drama, it's romance, everything.
Horror, it's
everything.
It's got everything rolling into one movie.
It's hard to do that and make it all work.
It's so hard to do it, and you care for all the characters. You feel the impact of everything.
I am a leaf on the wind.
I'm a leaf. I have that keychain.
Do you? My wife still says that every now and again.
It's a little leaf with the Serenity on the back of the thing. It's a little bronze keychain. I love this movie. So Serenity, I highly recommend it. Next up on the list, then, this one is yours that you highly recommend.
Okay, I highly recommend Mija Black. Now, the thing about Mija Black, it is 3 hours long. Okay, it is long. It is slow. This is what I call it is an elegant movie. It has a soft touch. Like, the 13th Warrior is the opposite of this. The 13th Warrior is a dirty glove holding a sword. You know what I mean? Like, this is a very soft movie. All the performances, the way it's directed, it's very elegant, it's very soft. But it is lovely. The performances are so good. And if you can just, slow your roll down enough to just let it be and, enjoy the kind of stillness, then you can really appreciate it. It's like savoring, not to be too pretentious, like savoring like a wine or something. It's not about, this isn't a shot. Like 13th Warrior is a mug of mead that you down and it comes down your face. Like, this is a glass of wine that you savor slowly.
Gotcha.
But it is Brad Pitt, Anthony Hopkins, and then they did Legends of the Fall right after. They did them back to back together.
I love.
Another great movie. But this one, Claire Forlani is so good. Everyone, but it's long and it's slow. But if you're in the mood, it's bittersweet. Like, it is sort of
the one where he's aging backwards, right? Isn't that what?
No, that's Fincher's Curious Case of Benjamin Button. This is the one where it's basically Death Takes a Holiday. It's a remake of an old movie, Death Takes a Holiday.
Okay.
So he's death.
I have not seen this one, but it's been on the list for a while. But this is the famous scene where he walks out into the street and gets hit by 2 cars.
It is brutal. If you don't know it's coming, it's really it's startling. Yeah. It's startling how that moment. But anyway, he gets hit by the boom boom. It's 2 hits. It's nasty.
But he falls in love, right? Isn't this sort of like a little romance story?
It is a romance, sure. It's a drama, but it's bittersweet. Anyway, I highly recommend it. But you gotta slow your roll. But if you're in the mood, it is just lovely. It's a lovely movie.
Meet Joe Black. Great recommendation. Next up, now this one I'm shocked that you've seen. This. I don't know anyone that has seen this next movie besides now you, but Radioland Murders. This movie came out of nowhere. I think I'm one of the only people that saw this one in the theater.
I didn't. I saw it when I was at Blockbuster.
Me and my family were out one day. We saw it up on the marquee and just went in and saw it. I mean, once again, like you said, Temple. We used to literally go see 3 movies on a weekend.
Sure.
Go see the action movie on Friday night, the big release one. Go see a comedy. Go see a drama or something like that.
Totally.
I miss stuff like that. And Radioland Murders just showed up one day. If you guys love Clue, which I know a lot of people do,
I love Clue.
I think you're gonna love this movie. So basically, there's a murder that takes place in Radioland on the opening night of WB. I can't remember the actual call signs. They're right there in the.
Well, it's back there behind.
I know it's right behind his head. I can't even see it, but it's opening night for this radio thing, and they're broadcasting coast to coast, and murders start happening all throughout the thing. It's a great murder mystery, super slapsticky, huge,
like Clue in that way. Yeah, very wink. They wink. They know what they're doing. It's tongue in cheek. They're self-aware, but that can be, if it's done well, that can be really entertaining.
And if you like that quick kind of humor, like
I do, I'm gonna go back. It's very clever. It's wit. It's about wit, and I like wit.
Yeah, and oh my god, there's just so many funny moments, and it's one of those movies that you're laughing so hard that you're missing the next few jokes. So it's great rewatch, even though
there's a lot going on. Yeah.
Good fun. I have now watched this movie, I don't even know how many times, and I just laugh hysterically.
That's
Brian
awesome.
Ben is the star. Not many people know of him. Dream On was like the big thing for him on HBO back in the day.
Oh, wow.
That's about really the only thing I know him from. But a huge, great cast of characters. Huge ensemble cast in this one. This one is produced by George Lucas, if I'm not mistaken. It was a
Lucasfilm production?
It's his production, but he didn't necessarily have much.
Yeah, but that's Lucas. Yeah. That means he was an executive producer.
Yeah, and so there's a bunch of great cameos, a bunch of funny moments in here, a little awesome performance from Bobcat Goldthwait.
Mary Stuart Masterson. That's
Mary
who that
Stuart
is.
Yeah. So a good movie. I'm sorry to even recommend this because I don't even know where you could find this one. It's not in huge circulation. I don't even know if you can find it on DVD anymore. I don't know if it ever got the transfer over to Blu-ray. So I'm going to kind of leave that up to you, sleuths, to see where you can find this one. I know I got a DVD copy downstairs, so I know it did get printed at one point. But there we go, Radioland Murders.
Michael McKean. Michael McKean. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen this movie in seriously like 30 years or something.
So small. He barely even has like speaking lines in this.
Jeffrey Tambor, he's in Meet Joe Black.
Yep,
Jeffrey Tambor
is
Stephen Tobolowsky, Larry Miller, Christopher Lloyd. Holy shit! Yeah, Corbin Burnson, Bobcat, Rosemary Clooney. That's George Clooney's mom.
George Clooney's aunt.
Yeah, you're right. Aunt. Dylan Baker.
Yeah.
Wow, I forgot, man. This really is a.
There's just this, and it's not like all these people are even important in there. They're just playing these like small one-off roles, which is like, why would
they're
you
character
Christopher
actors.
Lloyd to do? Yeah. It was character. It was beautiful though.
Like Clue, Christopher Lloyd.
I highly recommend it.
Cool.
So
good choice. I'm gonna go rewatch that.
Yeah, I think we really should have a rewatch.
George Lucas is one of the writers, it says.
Oh, I didn't even know that. So there you go. So yeah.
Cool.
A lot of good hands touched that film, and it was definitely a charming movie.
Cool.
But here we go. Moving on to next, you've got your bizarre suggestion next that I have never seen this movie, but take it away.
Okay.
What are we looking at here?
That is Nicolas Cage. Okay, this is my favorite Nicolas Cage movie. Raising Arizona is up there, but this is my favorite. So it's called Adaptation. Right. So most people know Spike Jonze's first movie being John Malkovich, which I think is brilliant. But that is written by a guy named Charlie Kaufman. So I like
Spike
this.
Jones from the
Beastie
MTV
Boys.
days.
Yeah. Escape videos and stuff. And then he became a feature film director.
Yeah.
So, but
Spike
being
Jonze,
John Malkovich was his first one. And it's a weird movie. It's such an interesting idea. And I love the script because I'm a writer. So Charlie Kaufman was definitely someone that I was paying attention to because I think it was so brilliant. So this was his next movie. So the thing about Adaptation, which I love even more, is, okay, so after being John Malkovich, Charlie Kaufman, the real Charlie Kaufman, was hired to adapt a book into a screenplay. Now, the book was called The Orchid Thief, which was based on a New Yorker article about a real event that took place down in Florida in the Everglades.
Is that the book he's reading right there?
Probably. Yes, on the
I
right.
think that's
The Orchid Thief. Yeah,
right
because,
there.
okay, so it's about orchids, this rare orchid in the Everglades. You can look up the rest. So
Okay.
but there's no real story to the book. It's a New Yorker article, and it's about, it's about the prose, and it's a nice, like, beautiful little vignette about this situation, but it's not, it's not driving. There isn't a propulsive plot to it. So Charlie Kaufman, the real Charlie Kaufman, was having a lot of trouble adapting it into like a Hollywood movie, and he was kind of going crazy. So what he decided to do was write a movie about how he was having trouble adapting this novel into a screenplay. So he wrote himself into the screenplay.
Interesting.
The screenplay, so Nick Cage plays Charlie Kaufman, who is trying to adapt this book into a screenplay and having trouble doing it. And he's talking to his therapist, and he's like, I've decided to write myself into it. Is that weird? And he was like, that's kind of weird. But it's happening, so it's super meta. What we would think of as meta now, like it's super duper meta. That's not only that, Charlie Kaufman created a twin brother who isn't real. And he plays Nick Cage plays his twin brother also. And they are credited as the screenwriters of this movie, which was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Screenplay. And the brother is the first the first fake person to ever be nominated for an Academy Award because he's not real. But anyway, that movie, it's got layer upon layer upon layer. I love the screenplay. Nick Cage, he is not Nick Cage in it. He is a bumbling, insecure, like the character is super, super insecure. That's what it's all about. It's all about neurosis and about this guy's neurosis trying to write this thing, and he hates himself, and then he created his twin brother who's like, whatever, I'm awesome, and I'm a schlub, and I don't give a shit, and Maggie Gyllenhaal's my girlfriend or whatever, because like that's who he wants to be in his head. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he creates a fake brother and who actually gets killed in the movie, and so like he gets murdered, but that didn't actually happen. So it's got all these layers of things that did actually happen in real life and things that didn't happen. And the book, and just layer upon layer, I think it's brilliant. It's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack in that movie, but I think the screenplay is absolutely fucking brilliant.
Okay. Adaptation. Now, don't get me wrong. I've definitely heard of this movie. I remember the DVD, cover very well, but I didn't know a thing about
It's weird.
So I've never seen it. So
it's weird. You got to roll with it, but it's good.
I will roll with that. Good recommendation, man.
Fuck
okay. Yeah. Next up is going to be another one of my favorites. This one I feel like is a little bit more mainstream, but sadly, every time I bring it up, I'm shocked to find people like, I've never heard of it and I've never seen it. And that is That Thing You Do. It was
directed by Tom Hanks.
Yeah, yes. Tom Hanks. This was his directorial debut, if I remember correctly. If I'm not mistaken, he wrote this script as well.
I think it was him and some, I'm sure, close, associates and stuff. But yeah, he was a driving force. Like he produced it. He developed this idea into a screenplay and made it himself.
Yeah, and what an interesting concept. It's literally about these like four guys from Erie, PA that have a band. And one day their drummer breaks his arm. So they go in, ask this other friend of theirs that is a drummer hey, will you do this talent show with us? And he ends up like turning this song into this one-hit wonder. And they end up having this just thrill ride of a year where they're going all the way through the motions of having a top 10 record, having top 10 record, a number one single, going and doing a movie shoot, and then being on Johnny Carson and right?
And it's a period piece. It's like a period
piece, yeah.
Doo-wop era, right?
The Beatles totally exist. They do reference all that stuff. And I mean, as you can see, just a great cast of young actors. Liv Tyler before she had really grown up.
Yeah, totally.
Ethan Embry over there.
This is about Liv Tyler, like Empire Records time period.
Yeah, I think she had just done Empire, but obviously hadn't done the Lord of the Rings.
And
become super, super famous like she is now.
She had just been in some Aerosmith music videos at that point.
Yeah.
Crying and crazy and amazing and shit.
What else was there? Then there's obviously Tom Hanks stars in it. Rita Wilson makes an appearance.
Yeah, he's the manager, right?
Yeah,
he's their
Tom
manager.
Hanks is their manager, and
it's so good. I always thought this is how I thought it was just well made. Like it doesn't blow you away, but you watch it and go, man, that's just solid. It's just solid. It's not something like I wouldn't nominate it for anything, but I would, I remember walking out of the theater going like, That was good. Like, it puts a smile on your face. You just feel good. It's a feel good movie.
It's a feel good movie.
It's a Tom Hanks. It's a Tom Hanks movie. Yeah. If you think about it, like, it's very Tom Hanks and that sort of just lovable, family sort of persona. Like, it's a movie that really you can feel that like warmth. It's a warm movie.
Yeah, and I mean, there's layers. There's a little bit of layers. Like, there's a little bit of like romance, a lot of comedy into it.
Sure,
but once again, like you said, it's a feel good. It doesn't.
And it's very period. It's a nostalgia. It's a bit of like nostalgia love of the time period, because I'm sure you know what I mean. It definitely feels.
But I mean, of course, I don't have much nostalgia for that time period, but
but he does. He does sort of thing. Like, it was just made by people or by someone who, loved really this time and wanted to
highly recommend it.
Like a love letter to the time and place sort of thing.
Yeah. I really wish there was more I could say to it, but it's literally about a band.
It's not super complicated. It's just well done.
Yeah.
Which is actually a lot harder to do than a lot of people think. That's why I can appreciate something that, like, I wasn't blown away, but it's hard to do solid. It's hard to do just solid. Exceptional is a whole other thing, but just solid is a good bar. You know what I mean? Like, as a wannabe, filmmaker and, small filmmaker, but someone who would like to make feature films, like, that would be awesome. I would love to make something good enough to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take that. I don't need to.
Right. It doesn't need to be something
like that's fucking good. I would be proud of that.
So I wish I could dive deeper into this one, but that thing you do, if you can find it, this one's definitely got more.
It's a gem.
Printability. It's a gem. You should be able to find this on Blu-ray and DVD and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's around.
So
it's the kind of thing that would like play on cable, like on the weekends over and over. It doesn't anymore, but back, you know what I mean? Like back in the day, that would have been something. Back when cable existed, like it would have played once a week somewhere.
So check it out if you can. I definitely highly recommend it.
Cool. What's next?
Next up is your recommendation, something that we both have actually seen on this one, which is The Beach. Oh, what happened?
Oh, wrong one.
Wrong image.
It's fine. Okay. So my thing with The Beach, as I've told you before, so my story with The Beach is, okay, so this is the first movie that Leo did after Titanic, okay? So we had been inundated with Titanic, which I love. I'm wearing my Titanic Leo shirt. Yeah. So, like, I do like Titanic. That's a whole other thing. But, after a year and a half, everyone was getting fucking tired of just Titanic, and My Heart Will Go On and all that shit. We all remember, like, it is. I was working at a video store at that time. I was so sick of it. Anyway. So then this was the first movie after that. So kind of no matter what his next movie was, no one was going to give a shit because they were just tired of Leo at that point. But I wanted to see it because I was such a big fan of Train Spotting. And Danny Boyle, who directed Train Spotting, directed The Beach. So to me, I wasn't going to see the new Leo movie. I was going to see the new Danny Boyle movie.
Nice.
So I didn't give a shit about the backlash noise. I wanted to go see this movie. And it's dark and beautiful and layered, and Leo's not a good person. And you know what I mean? Like, these are not good people. Tilda Swinton, now she's in everything.
Right.
But Tilda Swinton is kind of the leader of the group on the beach, and it's a travel movie. It's basically a travel movie where he finds this, he's in off the coast of Thailand, and it's this, hidden beach, and him and this French couple, they go, and it goes south. There's a shark attack, and they kind of turn on each other. I wouldn't say too much
because a lot of it is better left as a surprise.
It's dark, but it's a lot darker. But it was kind of So also, it was marketed at that time as being like fluffy. I
remember the ads not selling the movie that I saw.
Yeah, like Leo on a beach and romance and all that stuff. It's like this is a Danny Boyle movie. This movie is not. It's fucked up.
I remember when I watched it, I was like, this is not what the trailers led
on. The one thing that I don't think ages well, there's a sequence where because he plays a Game Boy, that's how old it is. So he's got a Game Boy on the island, and he's off on his own, and he kind of goes off into his own like world. And there's a sequence where he feels like he's inhabiting a video game, and it makes sense like what Danny Boyle and company kind of did, that little section, but like it makes sense thematically. I just don't think it ages very well. And every time it comes up, I always go like, oh God, just like fast forward through this little section. And then you go and it's like, okay, everything's fine. Everything's fine, people. It's okay. We skip that part, but it's kind of, it's a little like, oh God. But otherwise the beach is beautiful. It's fucked up, layered. I think it's great and totally underrated. Totally underrated.
I can totally agree with that one. I honestly haven't seen it in a long time. It's time to go back and see something like that. I think I only actually saw it all the way through one time, but it stuck with me.
Yeah.
If I can remember that much.
And then Danny Boyle did 28 Days Later after that, which was
love
that movie. Okay, let's move on to the next one. That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing.
Right and one other thing I wanted to mention, because it's not on the list, just real quick, is you had mentioned Tom Hanks' directorial debut was That Thing You Do. Another directorial debut of an actor that we've talked about that should be on this list is George Clooney's directorial debut Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, with Sam Rockwell and Julia Roberts. Everyone, well, the cast is like scattered throughout is fantastic. Julia Roberts shows up.
I love some of the camera stuff that they did in that one.
So good.
Side conversation. We should definitely
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. That's my like number 6.
Bonus.
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Next up, I love that I brought this one up and you said you're not familiar with this because it's like, oh, finally a movie that Justin hasn't really seen. But regarding Henry,
haven't seen it.
I love this movie. One of
Annette Bening.
Yeah, and Harrison Ford.
Who
exactly, right? So Harrison Ford is in this great movie where he gets shot in the head. He plays kind of a shitty lawyer, and he like has to like.
You mean a lawyer who is shitty, or a shitty person who is a lawyer?
He's a shitty person, man. He does like shady tactics to like win in court and stuff like that.
Nice.
So he's
so you mean just a lawyer?
Yeah, he's like a rich slime ball. Yeah, exactly. And he like steps out for a pack of smokes one night, and John Leguizamo shoots him in the head. During a little robbery gone wrong, and he survives and has to like relearn to walk, talk, think for himself, and basically comes out the other side a different person and doesn't want to be the person he was before, doesn't want to have the friends he had before, finds out that him and his wife are cheating on each other and stuff.
He's moral rectitude.
And the craziest thing, I don't know, that's too big of a word for this guy.
Rectify. Anyway,
the crazy thing that I learned about this one is that this was actually written by J.J. Abrams when he was in college. This is his first movie, so he has a small cameo in this movie way before he obviously took over the Star Wars universe with Harrison Ford as well. So I thought that was kind of a small fun Easter egg to learn years later. It's hard to explain this movie. It's a touchy-feely movie. It's soft. It's dramatic. It's got a lot of heart. There's a little bit of levity to it and stuff like that. It's not a big downer, but there are definitely moments where I still tear up. I can't help it. I just lose it every time when I watch this movie. There's just so much emotion packed into this, and I love it to death. And I don't think a lot of people have seen this one.
No, I haven't. I'm going to check it out though.
I think it's highly underrated.
Cool.
So
awesome.
I really recommend it. So that's a short snippet on Regarding Henry. I don't really want to give it all away, but
sure.
Yeah.
No, that was good.
Find that one.
You've convinced me.
Yeah, good. I'm glad I did. Now I've got one sold. And then next we've got another one of your picks here.
Yep.
Oh,
that's yours.
Order.
That's okay.
What? We're out of order. We'll get it fixed. You go ahead and just start talking about the fountain. I'll get this fixed.
Oh, okay. So my next pick is Darren Aronofsky's third movie, The Fountain. Now, of that period in his career, most people are more familiar with Requiem for a Dream. That's what most people think of at that time, which is a dark drug movie with Jennifer Connelly and Jared Leto. And
I can't watch that movie. I have seen half of it every time I've watched it because I'm like, I just can't take any more of this. It's so awful to watch.
It's not an easy movie to sit through. It's intense. So that was his second movie. The first movie he made was a movie called Pi. It was black and white, also kind of hard to sit through. But anyway, Darren Aronofsky is an interesting filmmaker. He recently did Mother with Jennifer Lawrence, which I am a huge fan of, that fucking no one saw and everyone else hates.
Saw that. Yeah.
Or if they did see it, they were like, what the hell was that? And I was like, it's brilliant. I loved Mother, but okay, so The Fountain. After Requiem for a Dream, he had written this movie called The Fountain, and it was going to star, he had a big budget, and it was going to star Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett, and then it fell apart in the way that movies just fall apart all the fucking time, all the time. So a couple of years later, you know, he kind of rewrote it, made it a little bit cheap, made the whole idea a little bit cheaper, and recast it with Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz. And they made it for super cheap up in like sound stages in Canada. And the idea is it's 3 parallel stories. And essentially, the fountain is a reference to the fountain of youth, and that tree is kind of the tree of life. It's all about it's symbolism and stuff. It's not all this stuff isn't. Symbolism. Yeah, it's not stated. Like you got to infer. You got to use your head a little bit. So, but it's very artistic. It's very art house. But it's 3 parallel stories. There's Spanish conquistador. There's contemporary, and then there's this sort of future space section. And it's about a man coming to grips with like the death of his wife, and it's a tragedy. Ultimately, it's bittersweet, but it's beautiful and haunting. It is one of my favorite soundtracks by Clint Mansell. Or let me rephrase it. It is one of my favorite soundtracks. It is done by a man named Clint Mansell. It is absolutely one of my favorite soundtracks. It's absolutely beautiful. But anyway, the movie, I just think it's hard to explain because it is very artistic. So it's all just about feeling and symbolism and emotion. It's not, there are whole sections where there's not a lot of talking, stuff like that. So it's definitely, you know, it's out there. But I think it's a brilliant film. I love it.
I definitely missed this one. I remember the trailers. And once again, you know, like you said, they went cheaper with the actor and actress. I mean, Hugh wasn't that big yet.
And so it wasn't marketed as big. Yeah. It wasn't a worldwide thing. It was just kind of a more of an indie, you know, it kind of came out as an indie movie. It was a super indie movie. And I knew about it because Darren Aronofsky. And because even though I can't say that I can't even say I like Requiem for a Dream, but I respect it. You know what I mean? Like I respect it.
That movie is so hard for me to sit through. It is just too intense. It's too much, and I mean, like Trainspotting, right? Like just to go back to Trainspotting.
It's just Trainspotting's funnier.
It's funnier, right?
It's funnier. That's the difference. It's Requiem for a Dream has no humor. It has no humor.
Dark.
There's no levity. So it is only you just sit in the muck and mire of that movie. You just sit in it, and it's impressive. It's impressive that they can do that. You know what I mean? Like I'm impressed with the craft of it, but oh god, it is hard. It's one of the
don't let that talk you out of seeing The Fountain because he highly recommends.
He also did Black Swan. And
I still have yet to see that one too. I got some homework.
Darren Aronofsky, an interesting filmmaker. He also did Noah with Russell Crowe. That was a weird one.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
He swung for the fences on that one. It didn't. I don't think he quite like. I mean, he made contact with the ball, but I don't know where he hit it, but he hit it hard some direction. It was, and I appreciate that. He's just one of those filmmakers. I can't even. Oh, his new one was The Whale that Brendan Fraser just got Best Actor for.
Oh, that one.
That's Darren Aronofsky. That's the only one that I haven't seen, but he's one of those filmmakers. I can't even say I like all of his movies, but he's a filmmaker whose movie I will go see because it has the potential to be really interesting, and I know he's going to do something different than what most people are doing. I like that. He's his own thing. I might not always like it, but he's doing his own thing, and I dig that. So kind of like Jordan Peele. We've talked about that before. I might not, I didn't love it, but I thought Get Out was great. I really do love Nope. I really liked it a lot too, but I like
Nope
that.
Almost made this list because I'm shocked at how many people still
have not seen it. Yeah, but he's just one of those filmmakers that he's totally doing his own thing, and I dig that.
Yeah,
so
I dig it too. Yeah. Well, last but not least, I've got one more recommendation here. I know that you've seen this one as well. I watched it again recently.
Classic, the 90s.
Suicide Kings, man.
Suicide Kings, late 90s. This is a late 90s gem for me.
Late 90s, yeah. I once again can't believe how many people haven't seen this one. After rewatching it again recently, I was like, man, this movie is still solid and really comes together. Kind of a little murder mystery, if you will. But basically, Christopher Walken giving a great performance.
Leary's in it. with
Dennis
the
Leary's
shark fish boots. You got fish boots.
No, man, they're Stingray. Fish boots.
Yeah, that was a good Leary. That was a pretty good Leary for a say. Like, you got the Stingray pretty good.
So, I mean, yeah, this one's just solid about a group of very entitled rich friends coming together because of some ransom on one of their sisters and stuff like that. The plot thickens. It's a who can you trust, who can you not trust. They for some reason kidnapped Christopher Walken, who's some like mafioso type guy that they just think that he's going to pay the ransom.
That he's got connections, yeah. Or no, I think it's he's got connections so he can like help us get our friend back, sort of thing. And he's like, I don't do that anymore. And they're like, well, we're gonna take your finger.
And they cut his finger off, and then he starts drinking all the alcohol, and then he's like slowly dying while he's there. And they start
turning on each other, of course.
Yeah.
And
there's good humor, and it's a solid independent film.
That's another solid movie. Not but yeah, totally holds up.
And as you can see from the picture right here, pretty good like ensemble.
Henry Thomas, Jeremy Sisto, Jay Moore, the brother from Roseanne.
No, God, he was on Big Bang Theory for like 10 years. That's what it really
Johnny Galecki, yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, Big Bang Theory is not one of my shows.
Not my thing either.
I don't want to. Yeah, I'm not going to talk shit or anything, but wasn't one of my shows.
No. So that's it in a nutshell, right there.
Yeah, just some movies. Like we want to talk about. This is what we love doing. Is talking about our passion for movies and movies that not everyone has necessarily seen or got like pushed aside. Because a lot of times, like when a movie comes out, makes a big difference. Like with The Beach, it was disregarded by a large group of people because they were sick of, seeing Leo's face because of Titanic, which had nothing to do with Danny Boyle and the movie he was making, but totally affected that. And so it's one of those, I'm not saying anyone was wrong necessarily. That's just kind of the way it is. But sometimes you go back and you say, actually, now that I look at it, that movie was really interesting. And that's what we like to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much good cinema, and I just, I love going into the past. I love finding those hidden gems and stuff like that. So I'm glad we got a chance to share those today.
Yeah.
I thought we talked about some really interesting ones, especially a couple that I've never even seen. So
go see some movies.
Go watch some movies.
Go watch some movies, right? Everyone.
Yeah. Well, that about wraps it up for us today. I really had some fun diving deep on some of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, totally. I love doing this.
I love doing that. So I appreciate you coming in, hanging out with me again today, Justin. And I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in today as well. If you enjoyed what you heard, tune in every week for more. And please consider subscribing on whatever platform you're enjoying us on. Let us know in the comments below your favorite movie you love to recommend to complete strangers all week long. And who knows, maybe with enough of those suggestions, we can do another episode about this. We'll see you next time right here on Back to the Podcast. So, of course, enjoy the cinema and have fun out there watching all your favorite movies. We'll see you next time.